Hariom, let's discuss the timeless wisdom of Bhagavad Gita and what they have to offer in our daily life. I am Anjali N Kumar, your host, guiding you through the various aspects of Bhagavad Gita. Today we have our honored guest, Dr. Ramesh Pattni, a theologist, professor, and a psychologist. Welcome, sir.
Hari Om.
Alongside, we have Brahmachari Ved Chaitanya ji from Chinmaya International Foundation to guide us through the path of Bhagavad Gita. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
So let's start this discussion by asking what is Bhagavad Gita?
See, Bhagavad Gita literally means Bhagavatah Gita, Song of God. What it means, as we know, part of Itihasa, during the Kurukshetra war, the Mahabharata war between Pandavas and Kauravas, Arjuna, one of the main warriors from the side of Pandava, he was under some confusion that is this war required, is this right, is this wrong? And he asked certain questions. He asked what his mind was feeling to Sri Krishna, who was his charioteer. But Sri Krishna was none other than Bhagavan himself. So the answers that are given by Bhagavan in that war is what constitutes Bhagavad Gita. It is a short text actually of 18 chapters, around 700 verses, which is part of a larger text called Mahabharata, or the earlier name of Mahabharata, which was Jayam. So of that entire text, which is a huge text, this is a small portion, but it has become very popular because of the significance of the contents of this Bhagavad Gita. So that's what is Bhagavad Gita.
So what is the significance? Why it is a popular scripture?
So why it is popular is because Arjuna is in a state of crisis, right? In the middle of the battlefield. And is a great hero and is a great warrior, but he is undergoing some kind of crisis. Now, if we think about the setting of the Bhagavad Gita, it is like a human disciple and a divine teacher. And the human disciple is actually representing you and me. And therefore, if we think about it in that particular perspective, that we are all undergoing some kind of psychological issues, which we can interpret Arjuna's condition in the middle of the battlefield as a psychological condition. And therefore, it becomes relevant because it is dealing with not only the human being and the human condition, but also life and living. And that has never changed over all the 40,000-50,000 years since we have been kind of coming to, understanding what a human being is. And therefore it is relevant today as well. And if it is dealing with fundamental human issues and challenges represented by Arjuna, and if we read the Gita in that particular manner, then it applies to you and me. And therefore it is relevant and it is also popular, because it explains not only the philosophical depth of what it means to be a human being and live a human life, but also the practical way of doing it. So the practical way is also very appealing in the sense that it can be practiced by anybody. And not only that, it is relevant in a different perspective, is that it is different layers at which you can understand it. So anybody can understand it basically. And therefore it becomes relevant, it becomes.
So for the beginners, can you just say when was the Gita told, to whom, by whom, and why?
See, historical side, if we come to, actually we don't know when exactly it happened. In the sense, we have a rough calculation which follows the Indian thought. So I have to explain this little bit because otherwise it will be wrong on many occasions. You see, according to Indian thought, the time is cyclic, and the calculation of time also is cyclic in nature, which according to us is divided into 4 eras, what we call as Yuga. So we have Satya Yuga, then we have Treta Yuga, where Sri Rama Avatara happens, Dwapar Yuga, where Shri Krishna Avatara happens, and therefore Bhagavad Gita also, and then there is Kali Yuga, where we all are at the moment. So according to our calculation, we are into around 5,200-300 years of Kali Yuga. We are into. And Bhagavad Gita was told during the battle of Mahabharata and therefore, battle of Kurukshetra, and therefore it is approximately 32 to 36 years before Kali era started. So we have that calculation in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam as well, where it is mentioned that after the war was over, how many years, the further rule continued till Kali Yuga started. So according to us, roughly, it is 5,500 years back that Bhagavad Gita was told. However, see, historians have got their own calculations according to the scientific nature of things that they observe, and like fossils and all this, carbon dating and all these methods that they use for dating a particular era. According to that also, there is lot of difference of opinion between different historians. There are many historians now, according to the planetary position they are trying to determine. But not going into so much of it, we know for sure that it happened towards the end of Dwapar Yuga, during the battlefield, during the war of Kurukshetra. Now Bhagavad Gita was told by Bhagavan Shri Krishna to Arjuna. And as I said, that he was one of the main key, person in that entire war. You can even say that the war was dependent on him. If Pandavas have to succeed, the entire burden who was on Arjuna. So he, so to say, was the central character of the entire war, and to him Bhagavad Gita is told. But here a very interesting observation that Shri Madhusudan Saraswati ji, one of the commentators of Bhagavad Gita, does. He says Bhagavad Gita was told to Arjuna, but not for Arjuna. He says Bhagavad Gita is meant for all of us. Arjuna was a nimitta. He was just a medium through which Bhagavad Gita came out. So in the divine scheme of things, Bhagavan Shri Krishna wanted this knowledge to remain. And therefore Arjuna was chosen as a medium to ask these questions, where the knowledge from Bhagavan Shri Krishna came out. So though it is told to Arjuna, but it is for all of us who want to do something in life, for our own benefit. So it is for us.
So what is the teaching of Gita?
We can conduct at least 100 sessions or discussing about what is the teaching. But I'll just tell you what is the main theme. We can understand it in two ways. The spiritual side of it and the psychological side of it. Psychological side, Dr. Ramesh will explain. I will tell the philosophical or the spiritual side of it. It is a Adhyatma Shastra. It is a science of spirituality that is explained in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So the whole discussion is happening about who am I? What is my role in this world? What am I supposed to do? And if I am born as human being, what is my ultimate goal? How can I reach there? What are the different paths that I can possibly take to reach there? This is the central theme of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. If I have to say in still more technical sense, we call Bhagavad Gita as the essence of Upanishads. And the essence of Upanishad also is explained as Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, etc., which show the oneness between the individual and the Supreme. So, keeping those Mahavakyas as the central theme, the entire Bhagavad Gita is expanded. So, we have general belief that first 6 chapters speak about the individual, therefore Tvam-pada. The next 6 chapters, chapters 7 to 12, they speak about God. Who is God? What is His nature? Why should He be worshipped? How He should be worshipped, etc. And the last 6 chapters speak about the oneness between the individual and the total God. So we can say this is the main theme or the main subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. But as I said, there are many other topics which are covered. So many psychological topics also, isn't it, Ramesh?
So if you think about from a psychological point, we are talking about a pathway for transformation. Okay? And that pathway of transformation is from confusion to clarity. Okay? So Arjun is in a state of confusion, and therefore that confusion, how is it removed? In what way is it removed? What are the techniques? What are the methods by that confusion is removed in Arjuna? And therefore taking him to such a clarity of thought and such a clarity of direction and such a clarity of the goal that he is now ready to stand up in front. So from a broken down condition of confusion to clarity about what to do and how to do. Which he is talking about is also that there is a spiritual transformation which is taking place. And that spiritual transformation is about the recognition of who I truly am in my true essence. So it's not only answering the question of who am I, but also the psychological means of getting to that point where I can truly discover myself. And therefore, it talks about the pathway of purification, Chitta Shuddhi. And that is really a psychological process which is now going to contribute towards the spiritual transformation in terms of understanding who I am. So that way also we can understand it.
Ramesh said one very beautiful thing. He said it's the path from confusion to clarity. And you see, this is proven by what Arjuna says at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita and at the end of it. Before Bhagavan Shri Krishna starts giving the knowledge, he says, I am dharma sammuda cheta. I have got confusion about what is my duty. Karpanya doshopa tatsvabhava, second chapter he says. So it starts from confusion, which is absolutely correct. And when it ends, when Bhagavan Shri Krishna has explained everything at the end of 18th chapter, Bhagavan asks, Arjuna, did you understand? Did you listen to what I have said? And Arjuna says, yes, Bhagavan. Nashto moha, smritir labdha, tvat prasadat maya achyuta. Sthitosmi gata sandeha, karishya vachanam tava. So you see there now what he is doing? He says, Nashto moha, confusion is gone. And I am standing gata sandeha, with all the doubts resolved. So very beautifully he has explained that is the path from confusion to clarity. So I think that is what Bhagavad Gita is.
This is wrote like centuries before, and things have changed tremendously. So how it is relevant now? How Gita is relevant now?
So as I was saying, the relevance is about what? Why do we ask this question whether it is relevant or not? So we think that this was written 5,000 years plus, and therefore it was written long time ago. Why should it be relevant now, right? And we think in this kind of temporal, linear way of thinking. Okay? Now this is very much a Western idea of linear thinking, relevance. Is it relevant or not? Because it was written so many years ago, and so on. The beautiful thing about Bhagavad Gita is that it is timeless. And if it is timeless, it is because it is dealing with the very essence of our human beingness and our human condition. So not only was it relevant then, it is relevant now, it is going to be relevant 10,000 years from now. Because the nature of the human being, the nature of the mind, the nature of what we are experiencing as human beings is going to remain the same. The context might change. The things around us are changing all the time, right? But we are still kind of in those things which Arjuna is himself experiencing. So the answer is really that if it is dealing with fundamental human issues, which were there 5,000 years ago, which are still there now, and which will still remain, then of course there is no question of relevance. It is always going to be relevant.
See, there are two kinds of discussions, no? Say for example, we are discussing today, three of us are sitting and discussing, and I ask you a question, what did you eat today? You tell I ate this. Then Ramesh said, I ate that yesterday. Now this conversation that we may have is time bound. It has no relevance after a week, after a month, or probably after 10 years. For sure it will not have any relevance. But the moment we start to discuss certain topics which have not changed, which will not change. So as he said, it is timeless. Second thing, it is universal. That's why it is relevant. What do you mean by it is universal? It is not for a particular group of people of particular religion, of particular caste, of particular nationality, of particular age group that the conversation is about. See, we say in the school we used to have these rhymes, English rhymes. Now those are generally Baba Black Sheep and Twinkle Twinkle. They're for children. You specify it by saying that it is for children. Certain movies, certain cartoons we say is for children. There is nothing in Bhagavad Gita which you can say is for a particular group only. So it is not only timeless and therefore not limited by time, but it is also universal and therefore not limited by space. The knowledge remains same, significant and relevant for all kind of people at all times. Small things may change, but the basic foundational principles do not change. For example, in our grandparents' time also, they used to tell speak truth. Parents also said the same thing. Today we are also telling the same thing, speak truth. What our grandparents were wearing, what our parents were wearing, what we are wearing might have changed. But there is fundamental value of truthfulness. That has not changed. So such topics which do not change in time or in space, those are discussed in Bhagavad Gita and therefore it will always be relevant. Bhagavad Gita will always be relevant because it discusses those fundamental questions. What Arjuna was going through at that time, we all are going through at the moment. Maybe in a very different way. Arjuna was actually at the battlefield where the actual fight was happening with weapons. Our battles are different. Our weapons are different. But we are also in a similar situation. Arjuna was confused, we are also confused. Arjuna needed guidance, we also need guidance. So what happens is it is not just relevant overall, but it is absolutely relevant. And actually as we go forward into Kali Yuga, it's going to only become more and more relevant.
And I think, like Vijay pointed out, the essential part, the one thing which every human being on this planet is experiencing is suffering. Yes. Okay? Not one person on this planet can say, I have never suffered. The interesting thing is that in the Bhagavad Gita, the emotion which Arjuna is expressing from a psychological point of view is grief. Now this grief is because he is anticipating killing his kith and kin. So this is, in psychology we call it anticipatory grief. It's like somebody is going to die and you start mourning even before you actually reach that point. Okay. Now grief is something which each and every human being on this planet is going to experience. And therefore that is a starting emotion which, very beautifully is expressed through the words of Arjuna. So if we can think about that condition in which Arjuna is and what kind of conflict he is going through. So it's not only the outer battlefield conflict, but there is an internal conflict which is going on. And much of the psychological well-being is based on how to manage and navigate your inner conflicts. Okay? Now, if you think about what is this conflict going on in Arjuna's mind, okay? Vijay, would you like to explain?
No.
Yeah. So this conflict which is going on, we can say it is happening at a level of what we can call as a moral dilemma. Why I'm talking about a moral dilemma is that on the one hand, there is a moral commitment to stand up and fight. He's a warrior, and that's his duty. But on the other hand, he's confronted with a countercurrent, which is an emotional countercurrent, which says, how can I kill my kith and kin? Now that is the conflict which is going on in his mind. Okay? So that is what we call in psychology as an existential crisis, whereby your very existence is being questioned as to who am I? What am I doing? Why am I feeling like this? Right? And that moral dilemma leads to the next thing, which is called emotional chaos. And he's so overwhelmed by emotion, okay? Shoka moha bhaya, which means that not only is there grief, but there is enormous anxiety and there is a lot of confusion. Now, when a person becomes overwhelmed by this kind of emotion, These are the kind of clients who come to me because I'm a psychotherapist. And when they come, they are totally overwhelmed. They keep on talking. And even in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is talking, but Krishna is keeping quiet. Yep. He's just listening. And this is what I have to do. And they can go on talking for 10 weeks, just the same stuff, because that conflict is so overwhelming emotionally that they have to kind of get it out. So that emotional kind of confusion is also another important part of it, which we call emotional dysregulation. So not only is cognitive thinking ability is paralyzed, but also because of the emotional overload, that is also paralyzing him. And at the same time, there is a loss of meaning and purpose in his life. He says, what's the point? What's the point of this battle? And why should I be actually fighting? So loss of meaning and purpose, emotional dysregulation, and cognitive, what you call dissonance. This cognitive dissonance means that you are fighting with yourself. There are two thought processes which are fighting with, and therefore it creating that inner conflict. So you can see Arjuna is in that kind of psychological condition where we can analyze in this kind of way to understand what he's undergoing. Now, this is exactly the same thing which day after day after day, I come across clients and they are absolutely in this kind of condition. That's why we are saying that, it is so much relevant today. Why? Because those internal conflicts will keep on going. Wherever you are on this planet, it will still keep on going. So here's the problem. Arjuna Vishada, Jiva Vishada is the problem. And therefore the solution is given by Bhagavan Shri Krishna in a very kind of systematic unfolding way, so that all these three things are taken care of. Not only the confusion in his mind, but the confusion in his emotion and the loss of meaning, purpose, values, all that is covered up by very, very beautiful as a systematic unfoldment of the solution itself.
Swami Tejomayananji, Pujya Guruji, he explains this very beautifully. He says, we know very clearly right at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita that Arjuna is asking about what should I do. So he has got confusion of his duty, which Rameshji said as moral dilemma, that he knows he is supposed to fight, but he says that how can I fight them? They are my uncles, my brothers, my relatives. How can I fight them? So there is a dilemma which is moral dilemma. Now Guruji says that this confusion of duty arises from ignorance of identity. Why are you confused about your duty? Because you have forgotten who you are. Arjuna there is supposed to be standing as a warrior on the side of dharma, fighting with warriors on the side of adharma. Arjuna forgets that he is standing as a warrior. He suddenly identifies himself as a nephew of somebody, grandson of somebody, brother of somebody. The moment you forget your identity, you will have confusion of your duty. In the movies, etc., this is often shown that a judge in the court will be faced with certain situation where his own son or daughter is in the criminal box. Now, he has to give judgment, but at the same time there are emotions involved. Why? Because this is my own daughter or son. So if I forget, if I identify as judge, I will give the correct judgment. But if I forget that I am a judge and I identify myself as a father, the judgment is going to be wrong. For both. For the court as well as for the person. The same dilemma a doctor also faces. When that doctor or surgeon has to do the operation on their own friends or family, etc. He has done it multiple times, no problem. But the moment emotions are involved, the practiced hand also starts to shake. Well practiced hand. He is all other times very strong, but where emotions are involved. Why? Because where emotions are involved, you tend to forget your identity. And the identity crisis becomes very, very natural. We should not say that, what is this Arjuna got? No. What Arjuna went through, we all are going through. For a smaller problem. Arjuna at least had that problem where he was faced with final thing. He had to kill them. It's not some simple, small battle. So I think it goes on so many levels, and that is why its relevance also remains on so many levels. See, we say Bhagavad Gita relevant or not relevant. The more we have such problems in life, more Bhagavad Gita becomes relevant for us. You may say that, oh, at this point of time, I am living a happy life, I don't need Bhagavad Gita. Maybe true, but you don't know tomorrow what is going to happen. Arjuna also, one day before that entire thing, was sitting quietly with Sri Krishna, casually chatting. He could have asked these questions, but he did not even anticipate that something like this will happen. So that is why relevance of Bhagavad Gita keeps growing as we face these obstacles, these difficulties in life. I think that is what.
Yeah, we were mentioning about the struggle is real on, and we all are going through that. So how we will term it in the management level or in the so-called IT sector? The struggle is real. So many people have gone across these kind of identity crisis, depression, and all those things. So how Bhagavad Gita helped those people?
Yeah, so if we kind of frame it as here's a kind of psychological issue, right? So I was framing Arjun's condition as a kind of psychological issues, which basically it is 3 different levels in terms of moral dilemma, emotional dysregulation, and also that there is loss of meaning and purpose in terms of what it means to be in existence. Therefore, an existential crisis. Now he was in the middle of the battlefield. Now imagine the same person in any kind of context. The context will change from, say, the battlefield to an organization. But that same conflict will still remain because it's the nature of the mind to be in that kind of dilemma and this kind of, emotional dysregulation and so on and so on. So therefore, the solutions are also there. Okay? So solutions are also there. So for example, if somebody is feeling emotionally dysregulated, then there are pathways which Bhagavan has shown, is that if you kind of focus on something higher than yourself, and then you devote your attention and your focus to that, then automatically what begins to happen is your emotions start getting controlled. Okay? So that kind of techniques and all these methods which are there in the Bhagavad Gita become relevant not only on the battlefield, but also in any kind of setting you can think of. Okay? And for example, if we talk about during COVID times, right? The nurses were so overwhelmed because not only are they looking at hundreds of people dying, and they became so overburdened with grief and anxiety about this kind of situation in which they were. Okay? They were given special programs in which they were using meditative, contemplative techniques to reduce the burden of emotion so that they can begin to function in the right way. Now, if you think about just that one particular thing, okay, of contemplative mindfulness, and that mindfulness is very much part of our Vedantic thinking as well. Okay? Mindfulness normally associated with Buddhism, but of course it is very much in terms of our Vedantic thinking as well. So what it means is that you can just step back. And I was just explaining to the students this morning, is that like, imagine that there is this river of the mind. And this river of the mind all of a sudden has got a huge rush. And you're caught up in the river itself. So you're flowing with the river without any control. You're completely out of control because you're under the control of the force of the river. Now suppose you have got the ability and capacity to step out of the river and stand on the bank. You are now completely free. You are not subject to the forces and the currents of the river because you're standing on solid ground and you're just watching what is happening. And that simple technique allowed the nurses to actually begin to cope with their emotional load and to be able to function in a better way. Just one simple example. So you can see that wherever you are, organization, same kind of conflict. Inner conflict, outer conflict. Take, for example, a team. There is always going to be some conflict in a team between two people, right? We have all observed this. It keeps on going on. Now, how do you manage interrelationships, right? How do you manage relationships? And Bhagwan has also given a clear idea about how that relationships can be maintained, right? And all this comes down to really the concept of dharmic living. And that word becomes very important in terms of the overall concept and framework of Bhagavad Gita, right? And which you can explain more about that.
See, two things. Whether we are in any profession, okay, whether we are in IT sector, management sector, or doctors, or whatever profession we are, one thing we have to face is this interpersonal communication and relationship. We can't avoid it. It doesn't matter whether we are directly in contact with people, public or not, but in the team, we are still part of the team, and therefore we have to have interpersonal relationship with them. So on professional side also, I need to have a good interpersonal relationship. On my personal side also, at my home, I have to be with all other people. Social circle also, there are still more people that I have to be with. And amidst all these things, I am fighting my own battles. What is happening inside me? So whether I am in management or in IT or in any sector in my profession, I will have these issues which will come up. I cannot say that, okay, I will never face. No, you will face. Today or tomorrow. The question is only that. And see, we have also, as human beings now, we are very interesting people. Interesting organism. Because any superficial thing also, we will make it into existential thing. For example, I am sleeping, morning alarm, and I look at it and I feel I have to get up now. Why? Why should I get up? Now from that simple situation that alarm has rung and you have to get up and take bath or go somewhere, I will suddenly go into why am I alive? What am I doing? Why am I? But nobody has. Now what happens is, human being has got this thinking capacity, and in what direction we will take the thinking, we have no idea. So any event, any situation that we are in will become too much for us. Now imagine if the situation itself is too much, then too we will collapse if we are not equipped. Just like Ramesh was giving example of those nurses, what they had to go through in an extreme situation. It's not that they are trained for this. Nobody is trained that there is going to be COVID or any such kind of thing. We don't know. But when suddenly it happens, tsunami happens, earthquake happens, these are the things that are happening, situations over which we have no control, or in some cases very little control we have. When we face these situations, our foundation completely shatters, and that is when Bhagavad Gita or the texts like that become very important. Why? Because throughout our life, we have not paid attention to this side of personality. See, from childhood, we have been told to take care of our body, exercise, right food, etc., etc. We have been fed lot of information for our intellect from school level onwards, school, college, post-graduation, everywhere. In job also, what are we doing? Intellectual thing. But when did we ever take any session on how to prepare mind for any situation? When did we do that? We were never taught. In a formal way, we were never taught that, okay, this is a time to prepare your mind for the challenges which will come. So what happens is, when I suddenly go into that situation, I know what is to be done. So my intellect is ready, my body is ready, but my mind is not ready. Why? Because I have not fed it enough. So therefore, again, in every walk of my life, there is an area which is neglected. And that is the area of mind, that is the area of spirituality. Unless I pay attention to it, unless I equip myself, unless I train my mind, I will not be able to face any situations in life, whether it is professional, personal, social, any kind of life. So I think that is where the relevance comes, especially for the working class. Now, when we say the working class, again, the middle-aged people or the young mind, that those are the people who are supposed to do things. Okay, we don't expect too many things from children. We don't expect too many things from elders, because we know elders have lived their life, children have to live their life. But there is so much of expectation on the youngsters and on the middle-aged people, and therefore for them this becomes utmost important.
So you were mentioning about the relationship. So how it is connected with Bhagavad Gita, and how it is nowadays it's so much complicated.
Right.
So how it is connected with the current relationships?
Okay. So we have a lot of people who are really thinking about relationships, right? So when, for example, couples come to me for couples therapy, and when they come to me, then I kind of start off them in one particular direction, which is, do you actually know how to talk to each other? Communication, right? Communication followed by some basic elements of what is it which is causing the conflict between yourselves. Okay, and not only conflict between yourselves, but there is inner conflict going on, right? So all this bring them into the therapy room. Now, if we change the context and think about, what Bhagavad Gita is talking about, right? It is talking about a very fundamental relationship, which is about me and the divine. Okay, so if we kind of keep that on the one side, what is happening is that the relationship which we normally observe is going to be between me and mine and you and yours. And the other person is saying me and mine. I'm saying me and mine. When we get into that point of me and mine and me and mine, then that relationship is bound to have some kind of conflict, right? Because on the one hand, there are desires which I have. There are attitudes which I have. There are intentions which I have. And there are choices which I want to make. And my particular way of looking that as me and mine will definitely be in conflict with somebody who is also saying, I've got this desire, I've got this kind of attitude, and I've got this particular intention, and this is what I want. So I want this, and I want this, and therefore there's going to be conflict. Not only that, but we are looking at expectations. Okay, so attachment to the things of the world and expectations about what I want from the other person. Now the question is that, if that conflict is going to be minimized, what are the techniques and things which Bhagavad Gita is talking about, which is going to help me to formulate a relationship in a different way? Okay, so as I was saying, the main kind of relationship which Bhagavad Gita is talking about is me and the divine, first of all. Okay, now that me and the divine becomes not me and mine, but thee and thou. You see what I mean? There is a huge difference between that. Me and mine means this is what I want, and this is what I'm expecting, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I will keep on doing. When I say thee and thine, my whole perspective changes. So it is for you, my beloved divine, that I'm doing this. It is for you that I work. This is for you I think. It is for you I feel. And that relationship of thee and thou is the purest form of relationship which one can have. And not only that, but the most beautiful one and the most fulfilling one. Okay? Now let's translate that in terms of personal relationship. Okay? Now, if I look at another concept in Bhagavad Gita, right? It says, one in all and all in one. Now, what do we mean by one in all is that the essence of myself is the essence in you. And when I come down from me and mine to the essence in myself and the essence in you, I begin to see the thee and thou relationship between me and the other person. And therefore, the means of getting from me and mine to thee and thou, thee and thine, becomes the the process and the mechanism which Bhagavad Gita is offering me in terms of bhakti yoga, for example, and making that relationship to exist in a different way between me and another human being. Okay? And all the techniques and methods of how to get to that point of coming to this equal vision where I see oneness in everything and oneness in that other person, and that oneness in the other person will take me towards a different kind of relationship, which is going to be the most beautiful relationship, because it's based on an ideal relationship between me and the divine.
So, taking this little further, what Ramesh has just explained, see, we have basic relationship with objects and living beings. Now, how do we understand objects in our life? Say, for example, this is my watch. The moment I say this is my watch, I take the role of owner and the watch is owned by me. The moment I say watch is owned by me, that means nobody should touch it. Nobody should do anything to it. Why? Because then anything happens to the watch, I will take it that it has happened to me. Why? Because I have connected to the watch by saying this is my watch. Many times what happens is, what we do with objects, we extend it to people. And we say this is my wife, my husband, my children. The moment I say they are my, what happens is two things. Number one, they become owned by me. So, they should behave how I want, which is never going to happen. Luckily, the objects do not have mind of their own, but people do have mind of their own. So, you may say, I want you to be like this, but the person is not going to be like that. Everybody is going to be how they want to be, not how I want to be. But I have defined my relationship in this way that I expect certain kind of behavior from them, which I don't get, then I become sad. Number one. Number two, anybody else taking them or anybody else coming closer to them, I start to have problem with them. Why? Because I say they are mine. If they are mine, then you should not be having the ownership. So another conflict starts when you say this is mine. What Bhagavad Gita tells you is, you are not the owner. You are the instrument of action. So this is not my watch. This is God's watch. I am caretaker. This is not my wife, my husband, my children. They all belong to God. I am just with them for some time. There is one very beautiful poem of Khalil Gibran, Life's Longing for Itself. And there he says one very beautiful thing. He says, children come through you, not from you. It's a very big thing that we need to realize, that they come from God. I am the medium. Now the moment I become medium, I cannot dictate how they should be, how they are supposed to live, how they are supposed to grow up and how they are supposed to be with me. No, you can't dictate it. You are instrument. You facilitate their growing up. You facilitate everything, their education and whatever they need, but don't have that attachment of ownership. Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmaya used to say one very beautiful thing. He used to say that when we live in the world amidst people, we should do exactly what we do when we take out the jackfruit. Jackfruit fruit is there. It is you must have in Kerala and in most of the coastal area, we know jackfruit very well. When you open it, the content is very sticky. But the fruit which is inside that sticky thing is very sweet. So what do you do? Suppose somebody doesn't know and therefore they open and they put their hand, everything will stick. And it will be so sticky that even if you wash with your soap and whatever, it will not go. It will remain. So what is the way? The way is they put oil. The ladies, they will put oil and then they will put the hand inside and take out one fruit. Now because of oil, what has happened? The situation has not changed. But I have equipped myself that I don't get attached to things. Then what happens? Then there is no sorrow. There is only that sweet fruit which will be there. In the same way, when we are living in the world, Gurudev used to say, be non-sticky pan. Put a oil of detachment, of vairagya on yourself and then live. Means what? You are still in the household. You are still living with your parents, you are still living with your spouse, your children, your relatives, everybody. But you are not sticking to anyone. And you are not allowing anybody else to stick to you. You are still doing your duty, but remaining detached. The moment we learn this technique which is explained in Bhagavad Gita, no relationship can give me sorrow. Relationships are meant to give joy. That is why we get into all relationships. But they become sorrow giving because of our attachment in that relationship. Bhagavad Gita teaches us to have that detachment. Now this is Karma Yoga angle. Say Bhakti Yoga angle, as Ramesh ji was explaining, that my primary relationship is with God. And therefore any other relationship that I have is through God. So my relationship is with God, that person's relationship is also with God, therefore we are related. See, like for example, suppose we have some common friend. I know him, you also know him, and therefore we know each other. So my relationship is through that one person. Like that, if all our relationships are through God, then they all will become divine relationships. Why? Because you are not in relationship with anybody directly, you are in relationship with God. This is a Bhakti Yoga angle of explanation from Bhagavad Gita. And Jnana Yoga angle is still deeper, where again, as Ramesh was pointing out, that who is me? Who am I actually? And who is the person in front of me? Essentially, we both are one. Why? Because essentially, I am not the body, mind, intellect, I am that self. And essentially, the other person is also not the body, mind, intellect that I see, but the self. Now, on that level, that self and self is one and the same. There is only one self. So, on that level, when I understand, all other relationships are temporary. My permanent relationship is with the self. And that does not change at any point of time. Nobody is going to leave me, nobody is going to be killed, nobody is going to kill. That's how Bhagavan Shri Krishna will start also. That Arjuna, you are saying that this is your grandfather, this is your friend, and you are going to kill. You are not going to kill. Nobody is going to kill anybody. Why? Nobody can kill, nobody can get killed. Now he is talking from the knowledge standpoint where the connection is with respect to the self. So the moment we study Bhagavad Gita and understand these perspectives of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga, the concept of detachment, devotion and knowledge, when these ideas come, it becomes very easy for me to live my life. And therefore, amidst all the chaos, you will still remain level-headed, without any conflict, without any problem inside you.
So this is all about mind management. So what Bhagavad Gita says about mind management?
Yes, so that is the key question, right? Because it's all about the mind. And therefore, if we talk about the mind in terms of Bhagavad Gita, very nicely Bhagavan is saying, you can lift yourself up with the mind and you can let yourself down with the mind. In other words, it is all about the discipline of the mind. Okay? Now, what do we mean by the mind? Okay, mind is taken as a whole entity, but then if we look at it, that there is an emotional aspect of the mind, there is the kind of thinking aspect of the mind, there is also an intentional aspect of the mind, and therefore the kind of fundamental principle which Bhagavan talks about is that mind needs to be disciplined, and it is only the disciplined mind with the right understanding, with the right thinking, with the right feeling, which can then transform itself to the extent that it can realize who the real me is. Okay, and you remember in chapter number 6, Arjuna asked the question, "You are telling me to sit down and meditate. I don't think I can do it because this mind is all over the place. It is like turbulent. It is all over the place, and you are telling me to sit down and meditate. I can't do it." And like a very good teacher, Krishna says, "Look, here, I totally agree with you. But there is a solution to that, right? Which is abhyas and vairagya." Now, this is the central kind of principle according to what mind management is all about. right? As far as psychologically speaking, I think that becomes a very important thing to understand what we mean by abhyas and vairagya, which then leads to a point whereby the mind is totally disciplined and controlled. Because it's all about regulation, right? In psychology, we talk about cognitive flexibility, which means that you're able to think in different ways so that you are not stuck in patterns of thinking. Number two, emotional regulation, which means that you're able to regulate your emotion so that this up and down of moods and mood swings and all that becomes like very even. So even-mindedness is called yoga, right? This is one of the definitions Bhagavan gives, okay? And that evenness of the mind is through abhyas and vairagya. So not only has it defined the kind of approach and the pathway through which this is going to happen, which is abhyas and vairagya, but also specifically he's telling us exactly what to do with the mind in order to bring it under control. And again, this thing about, the me and the mind and the attachment which are there, and the attachment when they are disturbs the mind. So to understand the nature of the mind and the nature of the functioning of the mind, having understood that, we can then think about, okay, what are the solutions to that? And like Vedji was talking about, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga. And if you look at each one of them, there is a component which is making you to kind of step out of the mind in one way or the other. For example, in karma yoga, what is the principle of karma yoga? Devote all your actions to the Lord. Stay centered in yourself. Forget about the me and the mind. Forget about doership. Forget about the enjoyership. And forget about attachment to the fruit of the action. Let go. Now, when we start doing that, it means the mind is becoming more controlled. Why? Because we have let go of the things which discontrol the mind. Okay? So mind management through karma yoga, bhakti yoga, which actually regulates your emotion and kind of gives you a way of regulating your emotion. So karma yoga is then helping you to control the mind through that kind of way of functioning in our action in day-to-day life. Bhakti yoga allows the emotional regulation to take place. Jnana yoga actually goes even further in trying to understand myself and who I truly am. And with that kind of knowledge about myself, the meaning and the purpose and the values become very clear. And that removes the confusion of the mind. And therefore the mind becomes disciplined. It becomes much more controlled. Okay? And Dhyana yoga eventually takes you to realizing who you truly are. So all these are really ways in which we can understand about management of the mind.
See, very interesting. Whatever I wanted to say, that is exactly what Rameshji is telling. So that's a good thing. Let me start from little different angle. As you said, mind is the essential part. It is actually not one of the essential things. It is the only essential things. See, when two people meet, it's actually two minds meeting. Anything that you see in the world is happening between minds. So, for example, a cricket match is going on. One team is playing against another team. Do you always know which team is going to win? No. Why do you not know? What is different? Minds are different. The same team has played against the same team 5 times before. But today's result nobody can predict. Why? Because mind is different. The bowler's mind is at a different place. Batsman's mind, fielder's mind, everything is at a different place. If everything is just according to the skill, then the result should happen just based on the paper. That this team has scored more runs before, so this team should win. It doesn't happen like that. Why? Because it is the mind at that moment which is going to be a key factor. Whether I am facing an examination, whether I am facing a tough situation in my home, everything is related to mind. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita also speaks about mind. And as Rameshji was mentioning, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. Let us say that same 4 ways, what it says about mind, it says 4 things. Very easy to remember. T. Train, tune, transform, transcend. Karma Yoga teaches us how to train our mind to do a particular action to the best of our ability. And in order to train our mind to do that, what are the things that I must give up? Number one, it says is you should give up result, thinking about the result from your mind. Because the moment I have result in my mind, I am not focusing on the process, I am not focusing on the next action, I am thinking about the result. What will happen? What if I fail? What if this happens? What if that happens? The moment result is capturing my mind, my attention from the present moment has gone off. So this is training part where I am training my mind not to think about the result. As Gurudev Swami Chinmaya used to say, the regrets of the past, worries of the future, and excitement in the present. These three things, if you give up, then you will be able to focus. Now, this is a training. Now, Bhakti Yoga says, if you want to train, you need to tune your mind to that supreme. Then what happens? Then whatever even my individual mind is not capable of doing, I will still be able to do it. Why? Because I have connected, I have tuned myself to a higher thing. So God's power works through me when I am tuned. So whatever I can't do, He will make it happen. This tune, so train, tune. Jnana Yoga teaches us transform. Transform the mind which is right now focusing on the world. Transform it to focus on the self. This is a positive change that you have to bring to your mind. And when we do this, then dhyana, then meditation teaches me how to transcend the mind and go beyond so that I can reach the self. So these 4 steps, I think, form the crux of Bhagavad Gita as well as the crux of mind management. Tune, train, tune, transform and transcend.
And also one interesting thing which we have in psychology is that there is something called the flow state. The flow state where optimal functioning of the mind takes place. Now, it's very interesting that, what the outcome of what, the 4 T's Vijay is talking about is exactly what psychology talks about in the flow state. Now, the flow state is whereby the optimal functioning of the mind takes place, which means the mind is so tuned up that it functions in the most creative and the most, beautiful way. And that flow state is what sometimes we call being in the zone. And being in the zone is like your mind is so present in the moment, number 1. And it's so focused on the task at hand, number 2. And number 3, that not only do you forget the time dimension, which means you are not even aware of time, and also that your sense of self also disappears. So much so that it is only the task and the task. I'm not even bothered about what is going to happen as a result of what I'm doing. So that focus on the task itself is absolutely karma yoga and nothing else, right? Because now I've forgotten about what I should be achieving and don't want to know what is going on, what is going to be the outcome of this particular action. All I'm focused so much on the task that my mind begins to flow in such a way that it accomplishes 10 times more than it would have when it is scattered all over the place. This is called optimal functioning of the mind. And in my thesis, I had compared this flow state to the state of samadhi. And that state of samadhi is also such a state in which the mind is absolutely clear and still. And Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, he says the mind becomes clear like a jewel. There is clarity in the mind, there is stillness in the mind, there is complete focus in the mind, and that makes this task to be absolutely done in an optimal way. Now you can see the connections with, the Bhagavad Gita and all what Vedji was talking about is bringing all these things together. Now this invention of the optimal functioning is only 30 years old. Okay? Whereas we have been talking about this thing for 5,000 years. But the result is the same. We are giving it a different name, but absolutely the same kind of thing.
Amazing. What Ramesh is telling about psychology, I am from electronics background, done engineering, no? We have a concept called resonance,
Yes.
which is same.
Yeah.
That if the frequency of the object matches with the overall frequency, it suddenly starts to behave in much more magnificent way than it otherwise could have.
Yeah.
Now the same thing in music, we say when there are so many people playing so many instruments, the moment all the instruments are tuned to one frequency, it becomes a beautiful sound. If they are at different frequencies playing something else, Gurudev used to call it, it becomes a chaos.
Yes.
But it doesn't remain as a chaos or a noise, and it works in a very beautiful organism, as though one organism is functioning through so many instruments when the frequency matches.
Yeah.
So that matching of frequency is what is that flow state, where your mind's frequency through training, it's not that, see, by fluke it may happen once or twice for a moment, but to remain in that state or to go back to that state again and again is a matter of lot of practice. And when we reach that state, we absolutely forget what is happening, in cricket we call it as muscle memory. The muscle memory takes over. So whatever practice you have done before, you are not even aware what is happening. But this is a very interesting state, because on one side you are not aware, on the other side you are fully aware, because you are only there at the present moment. You are not thinking about the past or the future or somewhere else. Some mind is not going anywhere else. So it's a very unique thing about mind that happens. And see, the best thing about Bhagavad Gita and overall Indian scriptures is, we say that this is not a fluke. This state is not a fluke. Many other religions believe that it is a fluke. We say no, there is a system to it. There is a science to it. And anybody who follows the science will be able to reach this state. In our Indian thought, we do not say geniuses are born. We say geniuses are made. And Bhagavad Gita is the science of making geniuses. So by studying of course, and then by practicing Bhagavad Gita, any person can go to this state. I think that is the most beautiful thing about Bhagavad Gita.
And it's very interesting that, the person who kind of talked about this concept of flow state, somewhere in his writing, he said that if you really want to have this flow state again and again and again, practice yoga. This is a Western scientist who is talking about yoga in relationship to optimal functioning of the mind. So this is the beauty and the treasure which we have is the Bhagavad Gita. Is absolutely amazing, the kind of things it tells us about mind management.
So nowadays it's like meditation, mindfulness, positivity. These are the most celebrated words. But the new generation is lacking all those things that is needed. So how Bhagavad Gita will help them?
You see, first of all, we have to study a text as that text. Not go with this idea that I want to learn mindfulness from Bhagavad Gita. I want to learn. No, you study Bhagavad Gita, what Bhagavad Gita is telling. You will automatically learn all the things. But I should not go with a particular idea. See, same thing, nowadays when they go for music class, they directly want to learn songs. That's not how it works. You have come to learn guitar, you have come to learn synth, or you have come to learn tabla. You learn that instrument as that instrument. Not particularly talking about, okay, I want to learn this song or that song. Then it will become a very, very artificial thing. And it will not last for a longer time. So I think what we need to do is, number one, we should study Bhagavad Gita, what Bhagavad Gita is telling. See, these fancy words, mindfulness, meditation, they are very attractive. Yeah. But have we reached the state of going even for those mindfulness or meditation, etc.? It's a very high spiritual sadhana, isn't it? When we have not even given 10th standard examination, we want to say, when can I do surgery? Wait, first 10th standard, 12th standard, then 5 years of medical, then you will become MD, surgeon, and then you can do surgery. It takes lot of time and lot of practice. It's not that overnight, one day I thought that, okay, I should go and then I should go for it. See, if we go with those preconceived notions, I want to learn mindfulness. Well, many times it is also because of certain movies, etc. They have those kind of impact that they will show that suddenly this happened and that happened and I also want to have that experience. It doesn't work like that. So, I feel we should study the text as the text and automatically we will learn all these techniques. We should not go to learn these techniques into the text.
And I think part of the problem is that, this consumerism, that meditation has become a product. Mindfulness has become a product. And once you make it a product, then everything changes, right? And therefore, I totally agree with what Vijay is saying, that, you have to go into the depth of the whole concept and the whole framework within which this mindfulness or meditation is based. And then you begin the journey from there. You just gone straight into it because people want instant solutions. They want quick fixes, which is not going to be possible. Okay. So yes, you can sit down and, learn how to keep still and to kind of, bring your mind to a calmness, but that is all you'll get. And the next day it's going to be back again, square one, chaos in the mind. So these are things which require deep study, a lot of practice, and then you begin to understand even what, samadhi or meditation is. And then when you practice, that is when you get the maximum result out of that. It is not a quick fix. And today's world, youngsters, they want something very quickly, right? And this is instant gratification. So again, it is not going to be possible because you can have quick fix here, but it quickly disappears as well.
See, couple of things on what he said. No, exactly, it has become a product. The moment it becomes product, it loses its depth. We see nowadays so many people teaching meditation, mindfulness on, and they say that it is based on Bhagavad Gita. There is no Bhagavad Gita in it. I always jokingly say that we have now new university called WhatsApp University, where so much of information about Bhagavad Gita keeps coming. But Bhagavad Gita doesn't say anything like this. See, because it has become a product. Now, this relationship management has become a product. Because everybody is looking for it. So, the moment what they will say is, they will, whatever philosophy that they want to preach, they will teach it in the name of Bhagavad Gita. The other day I was reading one message that, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, don't worry about the girls. If one girl goes, second girl will come. I said, why will Shri Krishna say anything like this in Bhagavad Gita? But I am saying people are creating this because there are consumers.
That's it.
And who are blindly going and saying that yes, Shri Krishna must have. Why will Shri Krishna? That's not even the topic of Bhagavad Gita. The moment it becomes a product, lot of dilution will happen. The product will not remain true.
Yeah.
I am not saying that Bhagavad Gita doesn't give relationship advice or Bhagavad Gita doesn't give management techniques. But we often forget one point, that that's not the main topic of Bhagavad Gita. And that's why I sometimes feel, nowadays everything they want from Bhagavad Gita only. Supply chain management from Bhagavad Gita. No, I'm not saying there will not be. Jyotisha from Bhagavad Gita. There will be. I'm not saying no. But Bhagavad Gita is not for this, no? It will, I'm sure it gives so much of, perspective into every science which is present, whether it's physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology. It will, I'm sure it will, nutrition. It will tell many things. But the moment you go to Bhagavad Gita only for this, then you are limiting the power of Bhagavad Gita for you. You will not be able to take its full use. My Acharya always used to tell that somebody gifted me a laptop. But if I don't know how to use it, or I don't know what laptop is, I may use it as a tray to give water to people. No, that laptop has much more. Now, can it not be used as a tray? No, it can of course be used as a tray, but that's not what laptop is meant for. It can give so many things. The only thing is you have to open it and go inside. Then so many things will come out. I don't have problem with people finding management techniques and all these things from Bhagavad Gita. I don't have problem, but I am saying there is much more to Bhagavad Gita than all these things. So when you study Bhagavad Gita, you study it as a text. Do not try to search management techniques in Bhagavad Gita. Then you will be limited in your vision of the text. It may sound a little harsh, but sorry if anybody is offended, but that's the fact. That it is meant for your mind management and to connect to that highest. It is meant for that spiritual wisdom. That's the main topic of Bhagavad Gita. All other things that Bhagavad Gita teaches are byproducts. So I think we should go for the essential thing.
Yeah.
And then in the process we will learn so many things. Of course, every text will do that. But let us not forget the main goal and main subject matter in the whole process.
So it's interesting that my journey was actually what Veji is describing. I studied the Bhagavad Gita before I came into the psychology of Bhagavad Gita, so that I had a much better understanding, because I studied the text itself first of all, the philosophical, spiritual dimension, all the things which, Gurudev taught us. And then I went into psychology, and then it becomes much more interesting for me to look at it from that point of view, because I've understood the kind of the framework within which the whole, text is based. But if you go, like Veji is saying, if you go there looking for these things, it is really, on the one hand, I think it's a pointless exercise, because you've not understood it, right? And you maybe pick the wrong thing out of it. And picking the wrong thing is worse than even doing, injustice to whatever Bhagavad Gita is talking about. So I think we have to be careful in terms of, not only that this is required in terms of the deeper understanding of the knowledge and the everything which Bhagavad Gita is teaching, but also that interpretation of that in terms of any other paradigm is a risky business, but it has to be done in a very clear and concise manner. And therefore, this needs to be kept in mind, is that, like consumerism, show me some different technique from Bhagavad Gita, which talks about leadership, for example. Now, I can't just go there and talk about leadership, because even if I talk about it, it's going to be a very limited way of understanding these things. So I think there is a danger to, making concepts and ideas from Bhagavad Gita as a consumer product. Because, like Veji is saying, it dilutes the whole thing. And not only dilutes, sometimes it can be misinterpreted as well, which is even a greater danger.
We were discussing about psychology and Bhagavad Gita and the connection between two. So now we talk more about depression and people who doesn't have any kind of meaning to lead their life. So how Bhagavad Gita can help a person who is going through a depression or a loss of purpose?
So from the psychological point of view, what is depression, right? Depression is very much at the heart of depression is about loss of meaning and purpose. And I've treated many clients with that kind of condition, right? And there is one client who had become so kind of far away from any meaning that he would not even want to get out of bed. He was so depressed. What's the point? What's the point of doing this? What's the point of even taking this garbage and putting it outside? And when I was doing this, on Zoom, I can see many black bags kind of lying in front of him. And I'm asking him, James, what is these things in front? He says, these are garbage bags, but I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to take them out. Complete loss of meaning and depression, right? Now think about what kind of meaning and purpose Bhagavad Gita gives you. It takes you to the very heart of yourself, the very heart of your existence, and tells you, just like it is, Bhagavan is telling Arjun, the first thing is telling him, you are not what you think you are. And starting from that, he explains who you truly are, and therefore make absolute sense as to who you are, but also what you ought to be doing in the context of that particular meaning about yourself. So not only do you understand the meaning of who you are, which immediately kind of, takes you away from depressive thoughts and depressive ideas, you begin to discover the purpose of your life. Not only do you discover purpose, but you also know the values which you need to follow. Meaning, purpose, values. And from the values, you know which choices to make. And from what choices you make, you find your direction towards the real meaning and purpose of your life. This is what Bhagavad Gita does. And therefore, the relationship with, alleviating depression is to read the Bhagavad Gita and understand what it is talking about in terms of your existence and the purpose of your existence, and finding meaning in that, and knowing that there is a clear pathway towards that particular self-knowledge. And this is how, I'm talking in general sense, but then when you go to the specifics of all the different pathways, then you can understand that each one of those is going to help you to cope with any kind of mental health issues. In fact, just last Sunday, I gave a talk on spiritual practices and mental health. And there is a kind of parallel connection with that as well, is that all the spiritual practices are in fact very much supportive of all these kind of issues which we face in day-to-day life. Not only depression, anxiety, even, ADHD. All these things are there. It is just a matter of, knowing what they exactly are, understanding the context in which they are given, and then applying them in a realistic way, and doing that which alleviate your problems of anxiety, depression, or whatever it is.
See, two things about this depression when it comes, though he is expert in that topic. See, Indian sciences are preventive in nature, not curative. This is one thing that we must understand, whether it is Ayurveda, whether it is spiritual science. Preventive in nature means what? When you do not have the problem and you prepare for the problem, you will be better equipped to face the problem. This is the basic understanding of any of Indian sciences. So spirituality is to be studied when I am not depressed. Suppose I am already in depression, hardly anybody can do anything. Therefore, what the science says, you learn, you study, you practice when you are not depressed, so that when the situation comes that you will have to be in depression, you will not be. You don't have to go through it. Many times, people ask this question about Ayurveda also. Has Ayurveda found solution to cancer? No, Ayurveda has found prevention to cancer. Ayurveda has found methods how we can live a life that we will not have these diseases. There is a stark difference between the two, isn't it? So Bhagavad Gita, when I study as a preventive measure, I will not be in depression. There is no question of what to do when I am in depression. So that is the first thing that we must understand, that it is a preventive science. And therefore I must study it when everything is fine. Actually, there is many people, suppose you tell somebody, you tell them that I am studying Bhagavad Gita. First question they will ask is, why? What happened? So the natural feeling is something bad has to happen in my life for me to study Bhagavad Gita. We forget that I am studying Bhagavad Gita so that nothing bad will happen in my life. Or if it happens, I will be well equipped to face it. So that is the first thing that we must understand. So you may not say, why I am saying this, because tomorrow somebody will say, and from 700 verses, point out one verse which talks about depression. It will not. It will not talk about that, because it's not a curative science. You cannot find prescription as we give it. If you have fever, take this. If you have headache, take. If you are depressed, read this verse. It will not work like that. There will be some verses which will talk about mind and talk about this thing, and therefore we can find the connection. But it's not a curative, it's a preventive. Number one. Number two, the best thing that Bhagavad Gita tells is, Bhagavan Shri Krishna takes the situation out of picture. If we see the entire theme, Arjuna finds himself in a tough situation that he doesn't want to be. And best thing that Bhagavan has done is he has not changed the situation. He is well capable of that. He is God, remember. So he is well capable of changing the situation, saying that, oh Arjuna, you don't want to fight? It's fine. I will make, with my powers, I will make sure. No. He says no. He says, this is the situation. You have to face the situation. If any change has to happen, the change has to happen within you. Whenever we are depressed, our first instinct is to change the situation. That I am depressed because of this person should not be with me. I am depressed in this situation I should not have. But we often forget that we are not in charge of the situation. So the only change that has to happen is within me. If I am depressed, I have to change. Nobody else can do anything about it. Nobody else actually is responsible for my depression also. The moment I take the onus of my issues, my challenges, my problems, I become ready to deal with them and to overcome them. Bhagavad Gita teaches us to be in charge and to take charge of your life. So I think that way it tackles depression, not in the usual psychological way of Western thinking.
So let me ask you something. You have, the first thing you said was India has everything. India has science, India is rich in heritage, we have our own culture and all those things. And we are following up a tradition from centuries ago. And the Western world, they have nothing like that. And even then, they are progressive and they are in progress. We are not reaching anywhere. Kind of a 50-50 chance is there. So why this contradiction is happening?
First thing, we should never say that we have everything and they have nothing. That's not true. That's not true. Spirituality is everywhere. So is materialism everywhere. So is progress everywhere. What mistake we do, we take a very short history in mind and we say that India is not economically strong like the West. But that you are telling 50 years history. Why India was under foreign rule? Why Britishers came to India? Why Portuguese came to India? Why Mughals came to India? Because India was the most prosperous land in the entire world. And the spirituality and prosperity has coexisted for years together. Now what you are asking me is about last few years. In the grand scheme, it is just a few years that India has, so to say, become backward. But if you see in last 70 years of independence, India is again competing with everybody. India is already fastest growing economy without leaving spirituality, mind you. India is already on number 5, going towards number 4 and number 3. India has already surpassed so many countries which have ruled over India, mind you. If you really think that spirituality and prosperity are two different things, where spirituality is there in East and prosperity is there in the West, that's a very wrong judgment of the situation. Looking at the immediate thing, you see prosperity, how it works, growth and sustainable growth are two different things. Now the world is opening itself to sustainable growth. Everybody wants quick growth. Problem with quick growth is quickly growing, quickly falling also. That's how market works. If you want sustainable growth, it has to go through a proper method of growing. And for any sustainable, prosperous growth outside, it will need a very strong spirituality at its base. When I say that India had everything, I am not being judgmental, not being over, proud or arrogant. No, I am not saying by any means that other countries did not have that. That's not my thing at all. But I am saying we had it because we were so good spiritually that we could venture into all the sciences very easily. See, India is known for the discoveries of science as well. Zero was invented in India, isn't it? Pythagoras theorem, whatever we say today in the name of Western scholars, was part of Indian thought. And I am not saying that means Western scholars are any less or anything. No, observations have happened everywhere. Things have happened everywhere. Spirituality is there in Western world also. And it's not that only India has taught them spirituality. No, every human being by nature has all those things. So, we should never say that we had all these things, they did not have, but they are. That's a very, very superficial judgment of the situation. If you go little deeper, you will understand, and everybody is understanding today, that if you want to go high, you have to go deep. Normal thing, as they say, that there is a huge boat which needs a shaft. The huge shaft has to be there. The anchor has to go that much deeper. If you want to fly high, you have to equip yourself, and that Equipping yourself will happen through spiritual knowledge, and that is where Bhagavad Gita comes into picture. That is where all the other Vedantic scriptures come into picture, because they create base. They are not anti-prosperity. They are not against prosperity. Actually, they are complementing prosperity. The clarity of thinking in your mind will give more ways for you to be prosperous outside as well as inside. That is what I feel.
Yeah. And I think, this connection which you made between sustainability and spirituality. What came to my mind is the Purusharth. So if we got, moksha and dharma at the containing artha and kama.
Correct.
Then it means that is sustainable, right? Because you're working within a framework which is based on not only respecting the environment, but respecting the whole cosmic structure of what dharma is all about. And at the same time, knowing that these artha and kama is within the context of dharma and moksha makes it sustainable, because then you are looking at a very, very long kind of way of sustaining everything. Suppose now you take the dharma and the moksha out of it, which means spirituality is gone. What are you left with? Just artha and kama, which is going to be selfish, which is going to be me, which is going to be about mine. And therefore, the need becomes the greed. And when greed is there, sustainability out of the window. So this is why prosperity and spirituality and sustainability can come together, and it has been there for us all this time. It's only that realignment might be needing to take place, but certainly it is there.
See, to give similar example, no? Today we have big buildings. And the moment we see big buildings in city, we think this is prosperity. That's a very narrow view of looking at it. I will tell you why. How long our buildings which we have built stay? Within 25-30 years, we go for redevelopment. Look at our houses which our ancestors have built. Look at our forts which our ancestors have built, which have lasted centuries. Now, do you mean to say they were less prosperous than us? No. They were more prosperous, and therefore they could go for sustainable growth. You see our own Illam, Shankaracharya's maternal home which we have, the foundation, the wooden structure is years old. And when we are trying to maintain it, we don't even find today people who understand that kind of system. Because as he said, the moment you put dharma and moksha out, artha kama becomes focused, everybody is going to think about it. So my contractor is going to think about his own gain. My constructor is going to think about his own gain. My architect is going to think about his own gain. Everybody is going to think about their own gain, and therefore they are going to take everything what they want. What will be left will be the building that will last for 20-30 years. But just because it looks nice, we say this is prosperous. No, it is not a prosperity. Prosperity was at the core of our Indian, living. And as I said, I am talking about Indian living because I know about it. I am not saying that it was not there in other parts of the world. It can be there. I am sure it must be there. But we had understood that what prosperity can give and what it should give. We knew the limit. And therefore we went to that only for that purpose. Our prosperity was of heart, which is far better than the prosperity of the material. When you go to a place, you see very flashy things, very good, you are happy, you come back. But you go to a place where people are very loving, who welcome you with kind heart, they may have very small things. Their house may be small, but their hearts are so large that you don't care about prosperity. Isn't it? So, even if we just talk about, wealth, money, even then sustainability is important. And I am saying we had gone way ahead of that material gains, and we had understood what is essential for our living. See, money is required for living, but not for life. Life is something which is different. in India, in Bharata, we had knowledge of these two. And our sciences were not different. The science of spirituality and material sciences were not different. And therefore, I completely disagree when they say that there was spirituality but no material progress. And in the West, there was material progress but no. I feel combination of both is there in both places. If only we see a little larger picture, then we will understand the whole thing.
So, we have Bhagavad Gita, we have so many lessons, but then too, there are so many myths that's falling around Bhagavad Gita. One of it is, Bhagavad Gita is only for elderly people. If the one is retired and out of all the jobs, they can learn Bhagavad Gita. Is it so?
I don't know from where this idea has come or thought has come, because if you just look at the Bhagavad Gita itself, you will know that is not true. See, Bhagavad Gita was told to whom? It was told to Arjuna, not to Dhritarashtra, Gandhari or Kunti or Vidura who has finished their life. It was told to Arjuna. It is a science of life. It teaches us how to live. I am not saying it is not for elders, but I am saying it is not only for elders. It is for all. It is for everyone who wants to live an intelligent life. It is for everyone. At all walks of life, at all stages of life. Sooner the better. Earlier we come to know about Bhagavad Gita and we start studying and practicing, it's better for us. And therefore I feel, I don't even know from where this myth has come, but I understand that many people think that, now let me live. After retirement I will study Bhagavad Gita. That's not the right way to think. It is for all of us, and therefore it should be part of our life right from the childhood.
Yeah, and I think people tend to kind of make a division between spirituality and life. And then they say, okay, I want to live my life until I reach that age of retirement, and then I will practice some of these things and I will read the Bhagavad Gita. The very concept in the Bhagavad Gita is that it is spirituality brought into the moment, rather than spirituality taken out of the moment and put somewhere else. You see what I mean? So that Bhagavad Gita teaches us that every moment is a spiritual moment. Which means it doesn't mean that you're 10 years old, 15 years old, 50 years old or 100 years old. That becomes irrelevant. Why? Because it's all about the spirituality in the moment. And therefore there is no division. Actually, that is a wrong concept which people have, is that there is a place for spirituality and then there's a place for normal, what they call normal life. But that is a wrong kind of way of thinking. That is a misunderstood what this is self-knowledge is all about. So I think some of these myths, people don't even think about these things, and maybe they are not even familiar with some of the, very beautiful concepts in the Bhagavad Gita, and then they come up with these kind of, ideas.
The other one is, does Bhagavad Gita endorse non-violence just because of the Yuddha part?
Does it non-violence or violence?
Violence. Sorry.
Does it endorse violence? No. I see. You will see certain words in Bhagavad Gita where Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna, therefore Arjuna, get up and fight. Tasmad uttishta kaunte, yuddhaya krita nishchaya, yuddhyasva. Fight. Now people take this word out of context. And therefore they say, you see, Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight. No. What we are missing point there is, Sri Krishna Bhagavan is telling Arjuna to do his duty. Now his duty at that time was of fighting. He is not telling, therefore Arjuna, get up and fight. Because mind you, this is the same Sri Krishna who had used all the methods or all the ways possible before to avoid the war. So generally in our political science also, in Arthashastra etc., we say Sama, Dana, Bheda, Danda. These are the 4 methods that you should deal with your enemy. Sama means you talk it out and try it if, in the talk itself, if that can be resolved. Dana means you give something as a gift or charity, saying that you keep this, but let us not have fight. Let us not quarrel. Bheda means you divide the opponent in a way that the fight can be avoided. When these 3 do not work, then you go for danda, then you go for physical violence. If we see Sri Krishna before the war started, Bhagavan himself went as a messenger. There was no need. He is Bhagavan, okay? The conflict is not even between him. But he went as a messenger because he thought that at least my words they will value. And at least if I tell, they may change their mind. So he tried to explain. There itself, when Duryodhana was very adamant and said no, he said, okay, fine, if you don't want to give the entire kingdom of Indraprastha to them, give 5 villages. If not 5 villages, give 5 houses. If not 5 houses, give 1 house. This is called Dana. He says, okay, you keep, but let us not have fight. When Duryodhana refused to give even a land which will take a pin to stand, that much land also I will not give. He even tried Veda. He even tried to explain to Karna that Karna, you are actually Kunti's son. Why? Because Sri Krishna thought that if Karna understands and Karna decides that okay, if I am one of the Pandavas, I cannot fight, Duryodhana being his best friend, and Duryodhana relied completely on Karna. Maybe Duryodhana will change his mind saying that, oh, if Karna is not there, let us not have fight. So actually Sri Krishna has tried all the means of avoiding violence. When violence becomes inevitable, there is a proper way by which the violence can be done. Bhagavad Gita does not tell about anything about violence at all. It is out of context completely. Bhagavan Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna, therefore Arjuna, get up and do your duty. As a warrior, his duty was to fight. If Arjuna was, in Gurukula studying, he would have said, therefore Arjuna, get up and come to class. Yes. But because he was at the battlefield, that word Yudhyasva will come. That doesn't mean it endorses violence or it, accepts violence, or Bhagavad Gita doesn't do anything like that.
You have anything to add?
No, you said it all.
So, is it only for Hindus? Bhagavad Gita is only for Hindus?
See, when Bhagavad Gita was given, there was no concept of Hindu. Humanity lived as humans. This concept of Hinduism has come when the Semitic religions have come. That division did not exist in our mind or our scriptures. Therefore, you will not see the word Hindu in Bhagavad Gita anywhere. Nor even in Vedas or entire Mahabharata or Ramayana for that matter. You will not see that word Hindu anywhere. Now, if we just broaden the question a little bit and say that is Bhagavad Gita only for one particular religion? No, it is not. Because religion has 2 aspects. One is the philosophical aspect and another is the practical aspect. Okay, so philosophy, we call it as darshana in Indian thought, and then there is a ritualistic aspect, right? So when we have philosophical and ritualistic 2 aspects, Bhagavad Gita speaks of philosophy, not much about ritualism. In the sense, it does not tell so much about in what way worship should be done. It speaks about worship, it speaks about devotion, it speaks about God, but it does not speak about any particular form of God. And therefore, it being philosophical, it has no, what you can say is, it doesn't have any kind of restriction that only this group, only this religion, only this nationality, only this ethnicity should study Bhagavad Gita. There is no such concept for Bhagavad Gita. So I think it is not just for Hindus, it is for everyone.
Yeah, and as I was saying that, it is the human condition. Human condition actually transcends any grouping, any religion, anything at all, right? So if you are talking about existential condition of a human being, then it will apply to anybody. And it doesn't mean that Westerners have not studied Bhagavad Gita. There are famous people like Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer who have actually studied the Gita and found such richness in it as well. So they come from a very different background, but it is still something which they find interesting in it, is not only like what you say in the philosophy, which is so rich, and also the practical application of that as well. So this is beyond boundaries. Gita is beyond any kind of boundaries. And not only that, but it is also timeless. Why? Because it's dealing with the existential human condition, which will apply to anybody.
So, according to you both, what is the main teaching of Bhagavad Gita?
See, I feel one thing that comes again and again in Bhagavad Gita when Bhagavan Shri Krishna is telling very interesting word as Arjuna, do not cry. Do not cry. Do not cry. He starts the entire teaching also by saying Ashochan anvashocastvam prajnavadam shabhashas. You are crying over things and people for whom you should not be crying for. And he concludes the teaching in the 18th chapter also by saying Mashucha. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja ham tva sarva papebhya mokshayishyami Mashucha. Do not cry. So, it tells us not to cry. Now, crying is not physical shedding of tears. Crying means not accepting the situation. Crying means complaining. Crying means being in continuous fight and conflict with the world. Bhagavad Gita tells us do not be in such conflict. Live a harmonious life. Accept the situation. See what best you can do in that situation. Don't complain. So it is a science. I think according to me, this is the main teaching of Bhagavad Gita, to remain positive all the time and say that I refuse to be sad, no matter what situation is. And even if we think about it, our situation cannot be worse than Arjuna. Mind you, we are not in the war where I have to kill my own grandparents and I have to kill my own friends or I have to get killed. We are not in that extreme situation. So if he is not supposed to cry, none of us are supposed to cry. And mind you, human beings love to cry. We love to complain. We complain about everything and anything. Though everything is fine, still we will find reasons to cry about and to complain, to creep about. And therefore, I feel for me, the main teaching that I take from Bhagavad Gita is don't cry. Okay, that I think for me that is the main.
So for me, I think, speaking from my psychological part, is that when we think about change, right, we think about change at 3 different levels. So number 1, I can change one habit. And say, I'm going to stop drinking coffee, for example. That only affects one part of my life. Then I go to another level of change, which is the change of mindset. So if I want to say I've got a healthy eating lifestyle mindset, then so many things change. So many things will change in my life. I will, not only change my drinking habits, my eating habits, my lifestyle, exercise more, because I've got this healthy mindset. It affects a lot of things. The third level of change is called a paradigm shift, where everything changes. And for me, the most valuable thing in the Bhagavad Gita is giving me the means to a paradigm shift, which means everything in my life is going to change. And in psychology, we call it cognitive restructuring, which means your whole thought process, based on your beliefs, begins to change completely. You become another different person altogether. And for me, that has been the most valuable thing which I've discovered in the Bhagavad Gita, is that not only the concept of paradigm change, but also the practical means of getting there. So it's such a beautiful text that, I can say to myself, actually, I want to have this wonderful state which Bhagavan Shri Krishna talks about, of complete change of your whole consciousness, as it were. And it is absolutely possible because he is saying these are the ways in which you can do it. And I think that every person is capable of doing that. And if every person is capable of doing that, it becomes like a treasure everybody can share.
So Bhagavad Gita is talking about the A to Z aspects of life. So from where I can learn Bhagavad Gita?
You have come to a right place, I would say, because See, Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji was synonymous to Bhagavad Gita. If there was one person in the recent history where we find, as we say, Gurudev brought Bhagavad Gita from puja room to the living room. Many of us used to worship Bhagavad Gita as a holy text, but we never opened it and never studied it. It was Gurudev who emphasized on study of Bhagavad Gita. Second thing he always told is that you should study the original text. Don't study something from Bhagavad Gita, study the original text. And that's why when Puja Gurudev used to conduct his famous Gita lectures, everybody in audience will have book in hand. And he used to jokingly say that don't believe me because I am telling. Longer the beard, greater is the suspicion, he used to say. And Gurudev was having long beard. He used to say, don't believe because I am telling. You read it yourself. So there used to be a system in there. Now, why used to be? There is a system even now in Chinmaya Mission where a verse is chanted. What actually the verse is chanted by everyone. Lead follow method. Every word is explained that okay, this is what is the meaning of this word, this is what is the total meaning, or this is what is the context. So the best way to study Bhagavad Gita, I think, is to go and study Bhagavad Gita. Somebody had once asked Puja Guruji, Swami Tejomayananji, that which according to you is the best commentary on Bhagavad Gita? Because there are so many great people who have written commentaries. There are ancient scholars, Shankaracharya ji, Madhusudan Saraswati ji, and Ramanujacharya ji, Madhvacharya ji, all of them have written commentaries on Gita. The recent ones also have written. Vinoba Bhaveji's Bhagavad Gita, Gurudev's, Swami Vivekananda's talks on Bhagavad Gita, Mahatma Gandhi ji, Lokmanya Tilak. So many people have written on Bhagavad Gita. Which is the best commentary? And Guruji gave a very interesting answer. He said the best commentary on Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavad Gita itself. Because every other commentary is somebody's perspective of Bhagavad Gita. So in Chinmaya Mission, especially in Chinmaya International Foundation, we have courses by which you can study Bhagavad Gita from absolutely zero knowledge. I don't know anything about Bhagavad Gita. You can start from there and master every single aspect of Bhagavad Gita. And therefore the course title itself is Master Gita, Master Life, where each and every word of Bhagavad Gita is explained. So we have talks, on every verse, every chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We have doubt clarification sessions on each chapter. We have meditation sessions based on that chapter. We have discussion, reflection, questions. We have internal sadhanas that I should perform from that chapter. We have questionnaires. We teach chanting also of that chapter. So every aspect, and as you are listening, you also have the text with you. Therefore, it helps you to study. So this Master Gita, Master Life course that CIF, Chinmaya International Foundation has is so to say a very complete course. And now we have it in English, in Malayalam, in Tamil, in three languages we have that course where in-depth Bhagavad Gita is taught. And it is completely online course. I can go by my own pace. I can start on any day and I can even join with a group so that some kind of inspiration remains and some mentoring also is possible. Some questions I can ask. And there is a proper system. There is an online discussion forum also is there so that it helps me to completely understand Bhagavad Gita, though I am staying in my own place and not that I have to leave everything, come to ashram and study. No. You can also do that if you are ready. But even at your own place, staying at home, while working, you can study. Devote every day few minutes, half an hour or 45 minutes, 1 hour for the study, and it will help you immensely. So I think Master Gita, Master Life is one such amazing course which covers all the aspects that one should know about Bhagavad Gita. To our children also we should start teaching the chanting of Bhagavad Gita. Don't try to teach them meaning so much. They are not at the stage of their life where they will understand the meaning. But teach them the chanting so that eventually when they grow up they will start asking questions about what they have learnt. And there, when the inquisitiveness comes from the student, from the youngsters, then we can give them knowledge. Guruji has given one beautiful shloka. He says, Gita pathe artha jidnyasa tato jnanam bhavishyati kritarthata hi jnanina tasmat gitam pathen naraha. When you chant Gita, jidnyasa, inquiry or one kind of inquisitiveness comes, quest comes, that what is the meaning? Artha jidnyasa. I want to know the meaning. When you have that inquisitiveness to know, you will gain knowledge. That knowledge will make you kritartha, will give you fulfillment. And therefore one should study Bhagavad Gita, one should read Bhagavad Gita. So we can start from there and then slowly progress. Don't worry about whether I will be able to finish or not, whether I will be ready to do or not. Don't worry about any of that. I don't know Sanskrit, how can I study? Don't worry about that. Because all these words in Sanskrit are explained in the other language. So English, Tamil, Malayalam, in whichever course you are doing, it is explained in those languages. So you don't have to worry about whether I know Sanskrit or not, whether I will be able to memorize or not. Don't worry about any of it. And just start study of Bhagavad Gita.
Sure.
That's what I will say.
So thank you for sharing the insights on Bhagavad Gita in many aspects. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Very good.